Okay, I want to talk about some changes I made to add color support. So here we have this specification for states, and you have a bunch of states, and I added color, so you can send in a color string. And I already had some code from um, the previous iteration of this product where when we parse it, so when we come down here where we're iterating through every element, we can create a box or a plane. That's the other thing I extended, so you can have boxes in here or planes. Where's my plane? Here's my plane. And then we're adding and removing some tags, and then the change state will go through and find or create the mesh, and then it will call update mesh in case you've moved its position or changed any of its other components. So this update mesh, let me switch these places. Update mesh looks for position, rotation, scaling, and then will, if it has the such attribute, it will parse this. So I'm not sure I'm a fan of using JSON parse here. A-frame just has spaces. Let's take a look at A-frames really quick. A-frame. Looks like they have rotation. Yeah, they just have spaces here. Do they have a scale? I don't see scale here. Position, rotation. Position, scale. Well, anyway, I haven't seen it. I'm just wondering if it should be called scale instead of scaling. But it's fine. Position, rotation, scaling. I think I would prefer if they did it. Maybe we can do this. Just a little less typing. Can I do this? Yes. Whoops. What if I just do this? Select this. Go. Nope. What is it? Control F. Okay. with the selected results, take everything that starts with this, replace with nothing. Take everything that starts like this, replace with nothing. Take every comma, replace with space. There we go. Okay. Then when we come down and we're parsing this, we go state change. So we look through the elements. For every one of them, we go find or create mesh, then update their mesh. And there's some business about previous state where we dispose. This actually, I think there's a flaw in the logic because you might jump around from different states and you don't want to just remove the previous state. You want to remove any state that's not the current state. So any mesh that doesn't have a tag, which I don't know if there's a query for that, but let's see now. First we go to find or create material. Sorry, find or create or find mesh. Maybe let's call this find or create, be consistent. Find or create the mesh. We do that, and then we go create the box or create the plane. Okay. Let's change this to find or create. Find or create the mesh. So it's on the update mesh that does this. So we want to get the entity get attribute of that attribute, and then we want to make an array from attribute. Array from attr. We give it the attr, which is a string, and then we do attr.split on space, which gives, and then for each one of those, let's also strip leading spaces. So the trim removes leading and trailing white space in the line terminator characters. Then we split on empty space, and then that should be it. That should give us the array. Return this. But these are strings, so we're going to map them, map over them. Each, I guess, element, we want to convert that. So parseInt, just parse float the element. String can come back with a number. Okay, so that's what we want. So, and that gives us an array, which we can feed into this, which is array, this array from attr. Okay, and then this is what I added. If they sent in the color attribute, then you look inside for a material. So we go find or create material. And what this does is, if this can either create a standard material, which you can assign a color, or it can be a special kind of material from Babylon.js, which is a grid, which is why it takes an opt, and the type can be color or grid. But for now, it's only going to be color that we're using. I don't care about the other kind. So if the type is color and there is a color string, then we will attempt to look for a material named by the material and the color string. I think that's fine. If the material is found, just return the material because we can reuse it. Otherwise, we create a new material, standard material, name it this thing, and then we create a color from the color string and assign the diffuse color to the color, return the material. That's find or create the material. So if I reload the page, something's wrong here, nothing came out. Sure, what is going on here? Let's see if this, let's see, find or create mesh. Let's see, where's the update mesh? Okay, if we just comment out this thing, everything would just remain at the origin. Let's see if it's this thing's problem. It is that thing's problem. Okay, so what happened here? Let's console log what this is. So paste console log array and tell me what this thing is, which is nan. Okay, so what happened here? So what is the attr? Console.log, the attr is attr. Okay, position. Okay, that's not what we want. We want not the attr, we want the value. Yeah. Okay, so it's entity get attribute. We want this thing. Let's assign it to something. So let the value equal this. Then if there is a value, proceed, then we send this value in. Now we have that. So, and we can change the part to 2. It moves. We change the part to 1. We don't get our plane back, which is interesting. So there is a bug somewhere around. There's a bug around disposing of things, which is in this change state. So this part here is a little wonky. Before I try to fix this, I do want to mention some other changes I made. So let's look at the diff. So I added the materials library to the npm package, but part of the ES build, I'm adding it to globals, which gives it a way to reference the materials from the script tag, because I don't want to include Babylon.js-materials inside my bundled artifact. So this will allow us to include the script tag, and then when it senses that you're referencing something that came from this import, it will alias that underneath Babylon dot something to look for the exported modules within that namespace. Here in the experience parser, I imported that package, but in here I'm importing it as mat, which I think is fine because I can't import it as Babylon. We already have Babylon. Here's where I'm changing the format of the position to be more like A-frame. I wonder if I just call this A dash box to match A-frame completely. You could just almost as a drop-in replacement. Maybe not. Let's see. Took away some comments. And this is the find or create mesh. We took a look at that, find or create material. Went over that. Yes, a bit of renaming. And this is the package JSON importing, installing Babylon.js materials. The change to the package, that was a package lock earlier, and this is the package. And then here we're adding it to the layout so we can have access to those advanced materials. So now let's try to fix this business with previous state. So when we ask to change the state, we're swapping the state. So we're saying here's the new state. This was the here's the new state, and the previous state is equal to the old state. And when we create this mesh, for every mesh that we're touching that's included in the new state, we have been tagging it with this new tag. So we're adding tags. This state is added as a tag. I wonder if we would just want to clear all the tags. Let's look at the API for Babylon tags. Why can't I drag this? There we go. Tags. CSS classes, just like tags on forms, can be used to categorize HTML elements. Thus, the same style background can be applied to a group of HTML defined by CSS class. Style for HTML can have the center. Thanks to JavaScript, you retrieve all of them all at the same time. This here we are. Tags in Babylon can be used to categorize group elements, and helper functions are provided to retrieve, gather tagged elements. Integration to Babylon.js was brought in 2014. The goal was to be able to retrieve meshes. Pure JavaScript. The concept was to allow the adding of tags on any JavaScript object, not necessarily only the objects created by Babylon.js. The tag class that has been added to Babylon contains all necessary code for this generic concept, TypeScript code, and internally uses the and or not evaluator. The use of tags, which can be enabled, disabled like this. So Babylon tags enable for this thing, disable for the thing, enable adds functions to the JavaScript object in the aim to test if it has tags, add tags to it, removes tags, test if it matches a tags query. These functions are proxies of static methods of tags, has tags, add tags to remove tags from matches query. Tags also contains get tags, which retrieves the array of tags of the JavaScript object. Remark, tags, add tags, enables tags for the object if needed. So you have this thing, you enable tags for it, and you can add tags separated by space, and then you have another object and you add tags for this. Now you can add tags without enabling tags for it first. Okay, so by adding tags, I automatically enable tags for it. Tags matches query and matches tags query are if tags are enabled for the JavaScript object, except a list of correct tags containing parentheses and Boolean evaluators such as tag and tag or not tag, or not tag and not. The tags evaluated. Okay, so okay, I think I understand. So we need matches tags query. Remove tags. Matches tags. Okay, rules to respect. The tags true and false are reserved and cannot be used. Tag cannot start with that. A tag cannot contain white spaces. Use in Babylon.js. Okay, now, so get meshes by tags. Okay, so we're adding this tag. We're removing the previous state tags. So let's say you started off as part 1. Everything is labeled with part 1. You go from part 1 to part 2. Those things that are in part 2 are now labeled part 2 and have the part 1 removed. So then you go and delete everything that's still part 1. Okay. Delete everything that has part 1 or any part. Right? Because you could jump to you could have gone from part 1 to part 2, and that would have removed. Let me play with this a little bit more. So let's reload this. Part 1 has green and red and a plane. When I switch to part 2, we introduced a third block, but the plane is gone. Right? The plane is not there because I've got a text one. So that one makes sense. Now if I go back to it, we'll remove desc3 and should put back the plane. So let's go back to part 1. But the plane didn't come back. And I think it's because we removed the plane immediately. Is that why? Let's put an output statement for everyone we're disposing. Okay. The previous meshes are, what is this? Previous meshes, what's the name of this? Box test 3, yes, it was deleted. But why didn't you create a new one? Console log mesh to delete will be mesh dot name. And we should create something. So for every one of these, console log created or found mesh dot name. Okay, so I clear this, refresh this. What do we get? All right, a lot of output here. So attempting to create box desk. Created or found box desk. Attempted to create box desk 2. Created or found box desk 2. Attempted to create floor plan. And created or found that. Yep. Now we go to part 2. Alright. Attribute this. Okay. Created or found box desk. Yes. Created or found box desk 2. Attempted to create box desk 3. Yes, created from that. And the previous state is part 1. Mesh to delete is floor plan. Yes. Now we go back to part 1. We found box desk. We found box desk 2. Created or found the floor plan. Oh, it is there. It's just maybe hidden because this thing is so wide, it's so tall, and coming back we didn't specify its scaling, so it kept its scaling. Should we do that? If you don't specify the scaling, should we just infer that it goes to 0? Yeah, maybe. What would that look like? So for each, get there. Okay, if it has a value, then do this. Otherwise, just set it to the 0. Mesh adder equal Babylon vector3 from array 0. Whoa. Oh, can't do that for scaling. So if attr is scaling, else. And in here we'll set all ones. So that means even if you don't specify it, it has a default value. So if we go from 1 to part 2 and then come back to part 1, we get back. I think that's maybe a better experience, more expected. And then if we go to part 3, then we go to part 2, then we go to part 1, then we go to part 2, and then 3. Is there 4? There's no 4. 3, 1, 2, 1. This seems to be working out pretty well. So deleting those from the previous state is actually working. We set everything to the new state, and we remove the old state. And then we selected everything that was the previous, that had previous state. Now, I guess this makes sense. You have to go through this machine. So you're always transitioning to a new state, and anything that had a previous state, which it necessarily has from being in the previous state, you delete it. So I think this works. Okay, let's just add maybe one more different kind of entity. How about a sphere? So we can have this thing have a sphere, and is my sphere, and we don't have anything. And so we can do define or create. So in here, just add an entry here, entity.node name is a sphere. Then we'll create a default sphere. Create sphere. sphere name, all default. What do we get? Nothing. No sphere. Created or found the sphere, but I can't see it. Do I need maybe a diameter? Still don't see it. Maybe a little bigger. There it is. Oh, was it just inside? Okay. So we need to talk about these attributes. These other attributes. Which I think some only apply to certain components or entities. So certainly there's like width, but I kind of feel like you can get away with this width. I mean, I guess you can squash and stretch this, but you can also just do this with scale. Because if we don't set anything here, and then we just come over here, let's move it a little bit. So position, let's move it toward us, which is Z. So 0, 0, -5, let's say. There we go. Now we can see it. And the colors should still work, so let's give it a... What makes yellow? What's the yellow color? Red and green? Or green and blue? R, G, B? Does that make yellow? No. R, G... There, that's yellow. And we go to part 2. Circle disappears. Go back to part 1. Circle comes back. Go to part 3. 2. Now we just need a way to attach a behavior on the scene to change these things automatically. But I'm satisfied to commit this. We have 3D slides. One more run through. Okay, add a Babylon material. Okay, we're parsing this in a way that's not using JSON parse, but just splitting the strings. If there's extra spaces in here, what happens? Yeah, that's a good question. Let's see what happens. So question, if we have this string, so blah blah blah, bunch of spaces, something like that, and then we do trim. Okay, then we do split by white space. You got that. Then I think we should filter by anything that A is not equal to that. Yeah, and that, yeah, I think that's what we want. Doesn't, what is, can you just do not A? Not A. So A. just filter. No, we need a function. So because the empty string looks like it evaluates to something falsy, I think we can just do, where's our function? Filter element, and it must be truthy. Okay, looking. Okay, I think this is good. Git commit add sphere plain color to slides, 3D slides. Git push origin slides. Check out main. Sudo git out main. Experience. Why is this still here? It's I have problems with Git